Welcome, everybody. I'm really glad to be here today with Mark Haney. Haney is a local in the Rockland-Roseville area, and you got to hear his story and what he's doing. By the way, this is the Hanging or Banging with Haney, because I did Hanging with Mark Haney. But how many people were there that night? It was like 12 or 14 people. It was a huge group.
There was a nice little group, yes. All entrepreneurs, all confidential, entrepreneurs getting together with entrepreneurs, trying to help one another. It's a fun night.
Yeah, and we had that guy, I forgot about it, but we had that guy who climbed the World Trade Center.
Spider-Man, that Spider-Man guy.
Was with us that night, yeah.
That was great. I forgot about that. That was a fun one.
Yeah. It was fun stories. A lot of people. So it was good. So will you please let our audience know where you come from, what you've done? And I mean, you had a huge success, but now you're not stopping. So fill them in.
You bet. Well, first of all, thanks for bringing me on the show, David. Great hanging with you on your turf. So I'm, you said I'm a hometown guy, which is right. I grew up in the Roseville area. I live in Loomis today, but just part of the greater Sacramento region. So I sort of consider Sacramento my hometown. And what I'm doing here at Haney Biz is we're back in the hometown entrepreneur. We bring, we're really a community, bringing capital and bringing expertise to the entrepreneurs. And as they succeed, we all succeed. I think we all know that when an entrepreneur has some success, it's good for his family. If it's big enough success, it's great for the whole region. And we see that happen occasionally here in the Sacramento region. And when we do, we want to celebrate it.
Well, it sounds like you're doing it more than occasionally. That board, if I recall, behind you that's covered with stuff.
Yeah.
Is you want to tell the audience what that's all about?
That's my CRM, right? Everybody's got a customer management system. I use dry erase board. But seriously, these are some names of some people in my community. So I'm putting together, I have this fascination that if enough of the most successful entrepreneurs help enough of the up-and-comers, that we can ignite an entrepreneurial revolution. So I am throwing a party for entrepreneurship. So we do events. I have a podcast like this and YouTube and so on, really trying to spread the gospel of entrepreneurship and help entrepreneurs succeed. And many times they're one business partner away. So behind me is a list of some of my portfolio companies, some of my co-investors, and then some of the people that I guess have supported me from a sponsorship standpoint along the way.
So I think it's really interesting. Let me back it up for a moment before I dive into the different things you're doing with entrepreneurs. Or tell us about, how you kind of built your career, had one, I don't know, maybe you had multiple big successes, but I'm aware of one large one. And then you kind of went into this mode where you were the entrepreneurial magnet for the area.
Yeah. So my first big success was a newspaper route. I actually sold the newspaper route when I moved. I auctioned it off and had a liquidity event with an earnout from the newspaper route, which is kind of at age 11. Got into video stores, then got into pivoted pretty hard from video stores and got into security. Ended up with 5 security companies. A couple of them had some exits that were pretty nice. And so then what am I going to do with myself, right? So kind of in the second half of my career, I started this angel investing and started building out the podcast, but really figured, what am I going to do? I'm either to go back to coaching football or stay in the small business realm. And the small business realm I thought would be a little more sustainable for the long haul. Maybe figure out a way to make some bucks again and really help some people. When, it's great helping guys on the football field or baseball field, but I mean, it is very serious when you get into entrepreneurship, right? People are putting everything they have on the line, and felt that I could make a bigger impact on the small business field.
So talk to us about those specific little areas, and they're not little areas that you're working on, like the one I was in with Hanging with Haney. Am I remembering the numbers correctly? That I don't know how long you've been doing that, but I don't think it's that long. And already you've met with like 4,000 different entrepreneurs.
Yeah, we did the stats. Met with about 3,000 this year, and I was kind of throwing out numbers. My goal is to meet every entrepreneur in the Sacramento region, which Sacramento and the entire region is probably about 3 million people. So if let's say 16% of the Sacramento region is entrepreneurs or have a side hustle at least. That's like 480,000 entrepreneurs. So I'm at about 5,000, maybe a few more. So I've got a little ways to go. So I'm just upping my numbers year to year. But really, I feel like if entrepreneurs, many times they feel alone. You're building this small business, maybe even it becomes a bigger business. And a lot of times there's a little bit of loneliness at the top. So who are you going to talk to? Well, other entrepreneurs understand your pain. They understand the solitude. And it's not quite so lonely when you have other entrepreneurs in your life.
Yeah, it was interesting because we met as a group. Everybody shared kind of what they were doing. And there were clearly some entrepreneurs that night, at least, there were a couple that kind of commandeered most of the time, and the others were comfortable just kind of sitting, maybe asking a few questions. But it was clearly something everybody enjoyed. And then I really was impressed by the fact that you have Brian, your producer, do a follow-up call with every single person after the event, basically, checking in, where can we help, what can we do? And I thought that was awesome. I think that's great the way you're connecting people.
Thank you. Yeah, I feel like people a lot of times don't know where to get plugged in, or if they do, they might be getting plugged in with people who that maybe aren't the best of the best. In other words, I feel like if you're going to get some help from somebody, whether it's, let's take your line of work, for example, you coach businesses on entrepreneurs how to succeed. I mean, we want to put entrepreneurs in a position to win. So a lot of times you take advice from the wrong people, you end up, we've all heard the line, we're the composite of the people we spend the most time around. And so we want to put people in our lives who are successful, who have been there, done that, have a proven track record. So I try to connect people throughout my network who might be the perfect fit for the entrepreneurs in my life.
And too often, and I did this when I was younger, I'd go talk to people who weren't strong enough to stand up and tell me I was wrong. Weren't going to tell me, no, you can't do that, or you can't do this, or they'd start that way and I'd overpower them, or they'd just give up and back off type of thing. So you need to connect people with others who are going to say, that doesn't add up to me. Have you thought of this? Have you thought of that?
I agree.
Help open them up.
And many times, especially if you get connected with somebody else who's in a similar type of business to you, might not be a competitor, but somebody who's, let's say you're in the online marketing world, somebody else who's in that space, who's built an online business. These are great connections to swap stories or share ideas. And that's really kind of my hope, is that the entrepreneurs don't view each other as competitors. It's not a zero-sum game. When your neighbor succeeds, it's great for the entire neighborhood. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It helps everybody. It makes them all stronger. I'm really fascinated by forgive me, but one of your podcasts was with the guy who does the online reviews. What's that site again?
Oh, Jeff Rizzo.
From
Riznos.
Riznos, yeah. I was fascinated by that. Now, how did you get connected with him? And then you've known him for some time, haven't you?
I've known him for 5 or 6 years, I want to say. I was connected to him by Brian, my producer.
Oh.
They played soccer. Both of them played competitive soccer together, and was introduced to Jeff as he was working out of his garage. And we began talking about growing his business. And he was kind enough to bring me on as his only investor, his first investor. And since then, his company is it's more than, it's grown tremendously. He's now, breaks my heart, but he moved to Reno. There's a little bit better tax scenario in Reno, in Nevada. So he's in Nevada. He's grown his company. It's a tremendous feeling to sort of live vicariously through an entrepreneur that you're invested into. And I think that's one of the biggest satisfactions that we get as angel investors, is investing into people and then being there to sort of see their development and sort of share in their wins and be there when they have a tough day as well.
So what's driving you, Mark? Here you've had this huge success, or you've had several successes. I love the newspaper route one, by the way. And, you could easily go do whatever you want to do. I mean, I don't think you're worth billions yet, but you've got plenty and you could do whatever you want. Instead, you're hanging around the hometown and trying to build this thing, trying to be a catalyst for something. And I'm curious, can you kind of paint a picture for our audience of what you think that looks like 5, 10 years from now,
Mhm.
that you're going to be able to look back kind of like an artist looks at a canvas and say, yeah, that's it.
Well,
That's
I
what I
think,
wanted.
yeah, I mean, great question. What drives me, I think ultimately is my family and my son, who you may have met, served in Afghanistan, was shot in the leg in Afghanistan. And he's okay today. He's actually a small business person. He's got his own business. And we started a charitable group that focuses on helping veterans transition. But I think deep down, I want to make my family proud. If my family's proud of me, I'm probably okay. So I've been married 34 and a half years. I've got a daughter who's 33, 3 grandchildren. And I think that's my world. But beyond that, I feel like if I'm going to stay relevant, I need to do something important. And so I'm one of these guys that sort of sets the outlandish dreams. And so igniting an entrepreneurial revolution right here in the hometown we love, to me, over the years, that means transferring the mindset of entrepreneurship, the mindset of the public, the consciousness of Sacramentans to really embrace how great entrepreneurship is and really help them succeed. And I think if we can bring enough of the angel investor community off the sidelines, I think a lot of people out there don't understand what it means to be an angel investor. So my goal over the next several years is to democratize angel investing and really bring people, matchmake the angel investor community with the entrepreneurial community. And when that happens, when people invest into your company, like I did with Jeff Rizzo, I mean, a confidence happens, and in some cases they blow up and have a lot of success. So on a community standpoint, I really would like to see Sacramento change from being a government mindset town, the government cow town, as a lot of people call us, to really an entrepreneurial, thriving, business-oriented community. And I think it starts one entrepreneur at a time, one conversation at a time, right? And a lot of times those conversations lead to all kinds of opportunity. But my personal goal for my business, for Haney Biz, I'm invested into 37 companies here locally today. And my goal is to be out in my backyard looking over my family of companies and the entrepreneurs. And I kind of picture doing some awards, recognition, and so on of the entrepreneurs who are really achieving. And I picture hundreds of them in my backyard, 100 millionaire business partners in my backyard who all love one another. And I feel like it's that love that really has helped me in my business, with my business partners, with my employees. And if we can have an army of entrepreneurs that all love each other, and then I am in some way sort of tying that together through my investment.
Yeah, you're connecting and you're being a catalyst. So talk to me about this, because before you even said it, I was thinking, okay, Sacramento, you want it to be like the entrepreneur capital type of thing. Silicon, you didn't say, but Silicon Valley North, whatever you want to call it. And but it's not just tech. You're getting into all kinds of things. But what type of, do you run into a lot of people who are just don't get it or fight it because they have this government mindset, or there's some other type of mindset?
I don't know that I'm running into the people that fight it. I'm probably running into more people that embrace entrepreneurship. I think everybody loves small business. We create jobs, and we know it's good. We're like puppies. Everybody likes small business people, but I don't think my vision of Sacramento would be necessarily like the Bay Area. I mean, you talked about the difference as you moved here from the Bay Area, and the Bay Area is a great place. It's thriving entrepreneurship, tons of venture capital put to work in the Bay Area, which is really cool. But we here in Sacramento, we have sort of like this Midwest flavor. There's, as you mentioned, there's some people have called us the little Bible Belt of almost like the Midwestern part of California. And I think I don't want to lose our personality of being kind of a small town, but I do think that, from the time I grew up, people I went to high school with, people that you meet today, and they think of a good job as going and working for the state, right? Or going to work for a corporation and hopefully having a nice retirement. I want to bring up the ideas that there are people who are actually changing the world. There are people inventing things. There are people creating opportunity that's almost unimaginable by most of us. That's happening right here in our backyard. It's certainly happening in the Bay Area, but I think we could be our own version of an entrepreneurial community that took some of what we love about the Bay, but take a lot about what we love of Sacramento.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. Now, when you're trying to expand the angel network, do you find that there are certain people that just think like, oh, too much risk, too much risk? And do you have any success in showing them a model? And I'm assuming this is your model, where because you can spread risk among multiple companies as an angel investor, you're not like taking your whole wad and betting it on one company, or how do you overcome that hesitation to even put their toe in the water?
You bet. Angel investing is not for everyone, for sure. I think there's a lot of people out there that feel bad because they missed the Uber, they missed the Facebook, they missed these high flyers. And I think my investment strategy is stay relentlessly local, live vicariously through my entrepreneurial friends, and really hopefully add value where I can. And I think we can add value to one another. And every once in a while, I'm invested into some that are flying pretty well. And then I'm invested into others that are more, I'd say they're more like cash flow type businesses, like restaurants and so on. So for me, they've got to be a rock star and they've got to be local, but that doesn't have to be a fast growing tech company, which is very, very different than what's happening in the Bay Area. Now, from an investor standpoint, who would want to come in alongside me? I think that depends. Everybody's got a different risk tolerance, but I think there's a lot of people that have FOMO, right? The fear of missing out on the next big thing. And they want that outsized return. Oh, I want to, because you can 10x, 100x your money in a good angel investment. I've had some that have had some very, very good success. I talked about Riznos, which is done very well, but others have done are even a lot bigger than that. So some people want it for the return. I think others of us like it so that we can live vicariously through these entrepreneurs and help them in some way. And I think some people like being in the club with the other entrepreneurs. It's like the club effect. But I do think that what I'm going to bring that I think is different. And again, I'm at the beginning stages. I've been investing for a while, but in terms of bringing in other capital, I want people who are thinking, I'm going to put my money where my town is, right? So I want to help my hometown to succeed. And by investing into the local small business community, we will help our town grow. Sure, I'm expecting an outsized return. Sure, I want to have the connection in the community with the entrepreneurs and my other angel investors. But you know what? I see what a successful entrepreneur does after he or she exits their business. You look at people who have sold their companies, they're the most generous people philanthropically. Successful entrepreneurs are the people that you want coaching your football teams and baseball teams at the youth level. And we know that they sponsor, if you look at the sponsorships of any Little League organization, you can see it, that entrepreneurs are all throughout that. So really entrepreneurs are the fabric of a lot of, even at the churches, the entrepreneurs are the fabric of the biggest donors of our faith-based institutions. So I just love helping hometown entrepreneurs succeed. And people think to themselves, well, if you go talk to your wealth manager, and I am not a wealth manager, this is not investment advice, but I think we all have gone and talked to people who are in the investment world, and they want to put us into stocks, which are outside of our community. They want to put us into bonds, which are outside of our community. So if you really want to invest in your hometown, you got to do it in real estate. Well, this is a way where, you don't have to put it in real estate. Take a small fraction of your net worth and put your money where your town is. And if you spread it out over 20, 30 investments, the chances of having a decent return go way up. We all know that you could invest into one and it could fail. So I'm rarely a proponent of take something and take your whole chip stack and bet it on one, unless you really have an inside track.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like the way you're wired, or the way you would approach it. And all the financial advice, stuff that I've read over the years has typically been pretty consistent, that 10% to maybe a maximum 25% of your portfolio might be in risk type investments,
Yeah.
whatever you're comfortable with, but there should be a portion that is in that if you're comfortable with it. I think the difference that you offer over the Silicon Valley VC, in many cases, not always. I mean, some of those people are very seasoned entrepreneurs. But I think the fact that you've been an entrepreneur, and not one time, but multiple, and then you have this experience with many other entrepreneurs is, I don't know about you, but when I look at someone else's business, I'm probably actually more insightful or picky about things. I don't gloss over when I'm looking at somebody else. Maybe it's because I'm paid to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But as an investor who's got the experience, you're not only looking for the upside, but you've had success. So you're not glassy-eyed. You're looking also where the weakness is, where the gaps, whether it's something you can fill or something you need somebody else to fill to remove the risk. Am I correct? Is that?
Yeah, I think so. I think there's something about being an entrepreneur. You know that having the right leadership team is critical if you are going to scale, if you're going to grow your business. I think commitment level it's not easily measured, but I think you can look at people's track records and their attitude and their passion toward their business, and get do a gut check on the commitment level. Because I think you think about why businesses fail, go out of business, why investors lose their money. It's because the entrepreneurial team quit at some level, right? It didn't work as well as we thought. I guess it's not worth it, and you fold up. It's just not that good of an idea.
I hate to interrupt, but
yeah,
let me also bring it up. So you got this team that are totally passionate, and how often does it pop up where you notice that they may be working, 10, 12, 14 hours a day, whatever it is, but you notice they're not focused on the right thing? Does that come up very often where
I
you're
think
like,
it does. Yeah. It's not uncommon for somebody to come in and they actually have two businesses and they want you to invest into one of them. And so, okay, that's kind of interesting. That's actually fairly common. I've got this business over here, and here's the spin out, and here's the one I'm raising money for. Well, what about your other one? Well, don't worry about that one. I'm going to, that takes almost none of my time anymore. Okay, well, I call that a straddled strategy. And that's typically something that I'll shy away from. So I want to invest where they're all in. But you talk about people who are working 12 and 14 hours a day. Those are good signs of commitment, actually. If I see 12 to 14 hours a day, that's a committed entrepreneur. Even sometimes you see more than that, 16, 18 hours a day. And I think that time under tension is really a sign of commitment, but are they working on the right stuff? I think you make a great point. Many times, the biggest decisions we make as entrepreneurs is how we allocate our resources, how we allocate our time. And many times we're working on the wrong stuff. And many times we don't get to focusing on sales and profitability soon enough. We work on perfecting a product, and there's only so much runway that we have before we run out of money. Especially if we're raising money, it's easy to run out of money if you don't have enough runway or enough time, and you've got to get sales going. So many times people aren't quite as excited about selling stuff, right? Driving sales and profit, raising money from our customers. Frequently, you see that as a back burner sort of item, and these are entrepreneurs I'm a little less likely to want to invest into. An entrepreneur's got to be able to make the molecules move, and they have to be cognizant of the numbers and how they're going to get from point A to point B from a financial standpoint.
Yeah, but how often does it happen where they're superstar developing the product or superstar on delivery of the product, but you have to have that wake up conversation that, you're great in that area, but if you don't do this, it's not going to come together. Do you,
Yeah,
does that
I do
happen?
see that. I look
Yeah.
for, I feel like every company successful, if they're going to scale, if they're going to be truly successful, you need somebody who's great on the product, great on the solution service, somebody who's great at sales and marketing, could be just marketing or sales, but somebody who can really drive the revenue. And then you need somebody who is financially savvy. And typically, I'll say almost never have I seen all of that package in one person. Right? Normally, that takes a team, and it's really the strength of that team, the commitment from that team to one another, to the mission that that I think can be tested by time. And so when I see entrepreneurs that haven't worked together very long, maybe have never worked together, they're talking about an idea and they barely know one another. These are times when I'm concerned about their ability to really work together, because I see one of the reasons, one of the things that causes businesses to really hiccup is, the founders can't get along and there's a divorce or a breakup of some kind, and that can, in many cases, that can put a company on the ropes or even out of business,
So
especially in the early stages.
you bring up those things, and I know that Haney Business Course, Haney, see, Haney, you've got financial people on your team to fill that gap, and I'm kind of curious. I didn't get a chance to ask you when we were together the other night, but is that financial team mainly just manage numbers, or are they actually like, hey, I'm looking at the numbers and this tells me this. You really should be focusing more in this area, or you should be growing your sales,
You
or you
bet.
should be finding lower product costs, or whatever.
Yeah, we have it's kind of different tiers. So if you want to just get your books done, we can do that. But we have CPAs on staff, and my teammates they help me. The way the Haney Biz accounting and finance group has grown is they've grown from helping me with my businesses. So I have a few businesses. One of our businesses now is the largest security integration company in the world of gaming. So we do, because you name a casino, chances are they're a customer. We do the cameras and security inside these gaming operations, like the Wynn and Caesars and so on. So I already had that business going. I have a construction company. I just sold a real estate company, but I had 3 real estate companies, which have now sold. So since I had these guys sort of advising me and helping me, it's like, just think if we started helping some other people that I invest into. So now we're helping clients all over the Sacramento region, but it's people that are much more than number crunchers. There are people that can look at your financial statement and see opportunity, see how we may want to reallocate things, or maybe how we may want to pour fuel on the fire, if you will, and really help you make the decision. So it's ultimately getting you back the information you need. You assemble all this information into QuickBooks or whatever your accounting system is, and then it's like, what does this all mean? Well, my accountants, my financial people can sort of help decipher that and help you forecast where you're going, which might mean the ability to borrow money, raise capital from an investor, really, ignite the business. So a lot of times having somebody who's got just a little bit more, we'll call it financial wisdom, if you have someone like that on your team, that can be a big benefit, especially to somebody. I mean, what I see in entrepreneurs is typically they're good with the product. I mean, I don't know how often I come to somebody, meet somebody, and they love their product. They built something, or they have an idea to build something. But they're not financially oriented. That's not their makeup. It's not their nature. So you need to have that right financial partner on your side.
Yeah, and I think, well, I mean, I don't know as many entrepreneurs as you anywhere close, but I do know hundreds from my experience in the computer industry. And most of the time, the financial advice they're getting is simply tax related, balancing the numbers, that type of thing, rather than strategic.
Mm-hmm.
Almost like a part-time CFO.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think what we're trying to do, not only just with my companies, but with people like you that are in my network, is how do we create the right set of sounding boards? So if somebody needs help in growing their business or working as a team, you're there to sort of help as a sounding board in some fashion. My financial guys might be helping in another. You and I both have a network of human resources professionals, IT people, and so on, because it takes to have a HR professional on your team when that you've got to pay 6 figures to, and you've got 5 employees. I mean, it doesn't make sense. It's not practical, but you still want to have them in your arsenal, right?
Yeah, no, definitely. So before we finish, I really want to get into understanding at a deeper level what your son's business is in working with veterans and that type of thing, because I think that's so important. Jeff, who produces this podcast, his cousin, my nephew, has served. He is an Army Ranger right now.
Wow.
And he's done, I don't know how many tours in Afghanistan and Iraq. I think he's up around 4 or 5.
Oh boy.
So he's training now for 2 years, which makes my sister-in-law very happy that he's not traveling.
Yeah. Hey, even training, he's a Ranger. Right? So if people listening, that's Special Forces, my friends. That's no joke. So a guy who is an Army Ranger is, is a tough hombre, and it's dangerous just training. So we thank him for his service. My son was in the Marine Corps. He was an infantryman, which meant he sort of, saw action from the front, and he got out and he spent some time doing staffing. He did some other things, and now he's built an industrial supply company that he sells everything from, I don't know, printer paper to toilet paper to software. He's got a wide range of businesses. His business is in its infancy. It's a startup in many ways, and he's spending a lot of his time on our charitable organization, Allegiant Giving, which is really almost a staffing sort of scenario, because we all know that there's a shortage of trained workers in almost every industry. And so Allegiant Giving, we have a co-working space, and we're working on the education piece and then the employment piece, getting these veterans transitioned so that they can get good paying jobs when they get out. And those are important for these people, because they don't know quite what they're going to do when they get out of the military. Why not go into a great job where, maybe something in the high tech field?
Yeah. And so I'm kind of curious, how many people are you typically working with? Is he typically working with in that Allegiant Giving?
The Allegiant Giving, we did again, we're sort of an early stage. We've been focused on cybersecurity. We did 100 people in 100 days, 100 women in 100 days. And then we've done an entrepreneurial course where we're doing 10 to 12 people, taking veterans, we call it service to CEO, taking them into some entrepreneurial opportunities. So we're in our infancy right now. So we're not hitting it all cylinders today, but we have the co-working space. So there's a number of people. We're down at McClellan Park, which is a former Air Force base, McClellan Air Force Base. And we're bringing a community together. So that's kind of it. We're starting by saying, come on in. Let's build. You don't have to be alone if you're a veteran, similar to what we're doing in entrepreneurship at Haney Biz. And we're doing that with Allegiant Giving. So we're just starting, and they're in groups of different sizes, but Dell thankfully donated a whole bunch of computers for us. So we're just getting the pieces of the puzzle together.
Yeah, well, let us know if we can help at all, because I think that's a great thing. And also, was that the organization where you raised some money and got some of those chairs for veterans who had come home in a bad way?
Yeah, we've given away 16 action track chairs. These are chairs that they look like wheelchairs, but they have tank tracks on the bottom. You saw one in our lobby. We've given 16 away. The first one we gave away was to a buddy of my son's from the Marine Corps, who was a triple amputee. Tommy Parker lost both legs, his arm. And so he was like, how do I get around the backyard? He had got out of the military, and, his wife's having to push him around in the wheelchair. And you go out onto the grass and picture pushing a guy around in a wheelchair on the grass. It's impossible. So these tank tracks really allow you to go off-road. So now he can go hunting, fishing, all these things that he loves to do. And he's, I guess, more independent in nature. So we've given away 16 to severely wounded vets. And thankfully, we just gave one away about 3 months ago, but there's less of a need today. There just aren't as people, getting blown up, as many people today getting blown up as there were just a few years ago. So we're there. We have a fund set aside to give away more in the event that it's needed.
Well, that's awesome. That's awesome. So, Mark, I want to thank you for being on. Do you have any closing advice, words, encouragement? But what would you say to our entrepreneurs out there? Because everybody, I think, that listens to this podcast is an entrepreneur.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on the show, David. Tons of fun, great conversation. And there's, I guess, if so many pieces of advice. I guess one thing I would say is nobody builds a truly great business alone. And so put people in your life that make you feel a little bit less afraid. And what I mean by that is, as entrepreneurs, I think our biggest enemy, the biggest thing we fight is fear, uncertainty, doubt, that causes all kinds of hesitation. So we have to put people in our lives like a business coach, real business partners, maybe it's an investor. Put people in your life that give you a little bit more confidence and make you feel just a little bit less afraid.
Great. Well, super. Thanks, Mark. I look forward to any interactions I get, anytime I fit in your schedule. It's been great being with you, and hope to do more with you in the future. Everybody, how do they get a hold of you?
Yeah, go to haneybiz.com, HANEYBIZ.com. My name is Mark. You can shoot me an email, mark@haneybiz.com, or follow me on social media at the Mark Haney. I have a show, the Mark Haney Show. That's how we came up with the Mark Haney. So anyway, it sounds a little egotistical. I hate that name, but that's my handle at the Mark Haney.
Yeah, and I can vouch for the audience. This is not an egotistical guy. If you didn't catch it in the whole podcast, working for other people, making things happen, and it's great. So thank you very much, Mark. You have a great afternoon, and really appreciate you being with us.
You bet. Thank you, David.